Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining some lessons from Jeremiah chapter 8. And as we've looked at the connections between chapter 7 and chapter 8, and we see that it's a continuation of this theme that God is laying out of the reasons why Judah is going to have to fall. You come into chapter 8 and you once again see a number of those reasons being given. And I want to take just a few moments and examine them because I think there are some very distinctive parallels between Judah and some other nations we might be familiar with. But I want you to consider what it is that God says about the reasons why Judah is going to face her judgment. Notice beginning in verse number 5. He says, "Why has this people slidden back, Jerusalem in a perpetual backsliding? They hold fast to deceit, they refuse to return. But I listened and heard, but they do not speak aright. No man repented of his wickedness, saying, What have I done? Everyone turned to his own course as the battle rushes, or as the horse rushes into the battle." He says nobody cares. He says they hold fast to deceit, they refuse to return. They allow themselves to be lied to, they lie to themselves. They do not care about what the truth is. Instead, they are just going to do whatever it is that they want to do, and there is nothing that is going to stop them. He says they are like the horse rushing into the battle. The horse rushing into the battle would have blinders on so that it couldn't see what was going on around it, and so that it would only go the direction that the rider wanted it to go. He said, God says, this is what the people of Judah are like. Whatever choice that they've made, that's the choice that they're going to follow. It doesn't matter what I say or what anybody else says. They refuse to listen. One of the reasons why Judah is going to fall is because they were unwilling to be taught. They were unwilling to listen to what it is that God has to say. He goes on to say in verse number 7, "Even the stork in the heavens knows her appointed time, and the turtle dove, the swift, and the swallow observe the time of their coming, but my people do not know the judgment of the Lord." He says, my people don't pay attention to their surroundings. They don't realize what's coming. And he says it's not because I haven't told them. Remember, he's been giving them warnings. Going back to our study through Isaiah, he's been giving them warnings for 100 years of what it is that's coming. And it doesn't matter. They will not listen. And they are refusing to understand the judgment of the Lord. When you drop down to verse number 10, he continues and he says, "Therefore I will give their wives to others and their fields to those who will inherit them, because from the least even to the greatest, everyone is given to covetousness. From the prophet even to the priest, everyone deals falsely." God says another reason why Judah is going to fall is because of corrupt leadership. There's not honesty, there's not integrity among the leaders of the people of Judah. Everyone is covetous, everyone deals falsely, everyone is a liar. Nobody stands up for what's right. There is no integrity among the leaders of Judah, and this includes the priests and the prophet. Now, obviously, Jeremiah is accepted from this, and there are other good prophets as well, but they're not the only ones claiming to be prophets. And the overwhelming majority of those that are claiming to be prophets in Jeremiah's day are corrupt, and extremely so. And so you have God saying, everyone deals falsely. There's no integrity amongst the people of Judah. They don't do things the right way. They don't care what the right way is. They will lie, cheat, and steal from one another at a moment's notice. There is no care or concern for the other person. He goes on to say in verse 11, "For they have healed the herd of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace." They've been warned. They have seen all that is coming around them. They've seen all of the nations that have been building up and all of the troubles that they've had, and yet they look at all of the things that are going on around them and they say, everything's fine, nothing to worry about. It'll all be good in the long run. All we've got to do is just keep our hands to ourselves and not stir the pot at all and don't mess with anybody, and we'll be just fine. Peace, peace, when there is no peace. And then he says in verse 12, were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? No. They weren't at all ashamed, and they didn't even know how to blush. Therefore they shall fall among those who fall. In the time of their punishment they shall be cast down, says the Lord. The other problem that Judah has, she doesn't know how to be ashamed anymore. There is nothing that bothers her when it comes to sin and unrighteousness. There is nothing as she looks around the world around her that she looks at and says, this is wrong. This is evil. This is against God. As a matter of fact, so many of the things that are happening in Judah at this time, they will look around and they will say, look, God is still with us. Everything will be fine. Sound familiar? Any of these things sound like a world in which we live today? Increasingly, I believe the answer is yes. And yet when you look at the end of Jeremiah chapter 8, Jeremiah is going to call out and cry out at the end of this message. In verse 14, he says, why do we sit still? Assemble yourselves. Let us enter the fortified cities. Let us be silent there, for the Lord our God has put us to silence and given us water of gall to drink because we have sinned against the Lord. What are we waiting for? Why won't we listen? And why won't we do what needs to be done? It's a good question. And it's a question that has just as many answers today as it did in the days of Jeremiah. But these are some of the lessons that we need to learn from Jeremiah chapter 8 about the problems that caused Judah to fall, and that there are many of the same problems that we face even today. Tomorrow we will come back and we will begin examining Jeremiah chapter 9 and looking at the things that are found there. But until then, I hope you have a good day.